What's up, gamers, and welcome back for more WotC-20. Today's matchup is Machamp versus a Dark Grass deck. Not really sure what it's called. It's a combination of Dark Muck and Dark Fortress. So we'll see how it goes. I'll probably refer to it overall as a Dark Muck deck, since that did seem to have some sort of historic play on the Jason Klaczynski blog, if you look at that for deck options or WotC-20 deck ideas. So a lot of us do that, and you can see starting right out of the gate, it will have a Grimer on bench, so I'll refer to them as Dark Muck. And we have a Yanma in active. This match is a reroll of a previous tournament round, so they wanted to run it back. So this will not be impacting tournament results, but active for Machamp is going to be a Cleffa, so we'll see how things get going. It looks like Dark Muck has the draw here. And that Grimer is from Rocket. We'll be sitting on the bench for now, as it looks Yanma is going to attach one Grass Energy, and the Yanma is a good card as well. It has seen some play. It's been paired with Steelix before. It's a free retreater. It has a fighting resistance. It has 60 HP, which is big on a basic. And the first attack is pretty familiar. The reason it's been paired with Steelix is because it's very similar to Earth Rift. But with Shockwave, you get to flip a coin. And if heads, the attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Then, if your opponent has any benched Pokemon, he or she chooses one of them and switches it with the defending. So very disruptive. On the coin flip, though, not great against a baby, since you already have to do a coin flip. And it looks like a Imposter Oak's Revenge was played, so before even getting to play the game, Machamp has to shuffle their starting hand back into the deck and draw 4. A Boss's Way was discarded. That Boss's Way can be used to grab a Dark Muck or the Dark Fortress, so dual utility, much better when you can leverage it than using something like Trader, just because Trader you have to have a Mon in hand to go back into your deck. So if you have multiple targets for something like Boss's Way, I like it a lot as a search card myself. And now the Rocket's Trap, not a super common card to see, but it is very disruptive. It's on a coin flip, it looks like, and this is surprising everybody, including myself. We'll let them resolve it real quick.
Okay, so you choose 3 cards at random.
And as they're resolving it now, so it's on a coin flip, but Rocket's Trap says if you hit a heads, you choose up to 3 cards at random for your opponent without looking at them, and your opponent shuffles those cards into his or her deck. So when you get to go first, you get to disrupt your opponent with an Imposter's Oak Revenge, and then also Rocket's Trap them, assuming you get the flip. You could kind of knock them out of the game immediately. However, hand disruption in this format is a little bit tricky to get used to. A little bit hard to really squeeze the opponent with it, because we have Cleffa in format, and it looks like Shockwave was just attempted and did not succeed. So a draw off the top for Machamp is a fighting energy. I do think if we had seen the hand, I think there was a DCE in there as well. Looks like they're discussing how much energy was in hand to begin with anyway, so it wasn't super surprising to see an energy, just because Machamp runs a high basic energy count in this deck. So that would be the problem with hand trapping your opponent. 3 trainers basically just got completely offsetted by Cleffa using Eek. So pretty good case study for how disruption tends to pan out in this format. Not always the case. I am generalizing based on this one format, but Dark Muck comes down. Very fun card. I've thought about running it before, and it gets its own grass attach. Would have loved to see the initial grass attach go to Grimer for that Dark Muck, just because flipping for a Shockwave on a Cleffa with an empty bench isn't going to get a knockout, but you could retreat into the Dark Muck here, since Yanma is a free retreater and have had 2 grass energies down, and you could have tried to go for a donk here. Sludge Punch for 2 grass energy is 20 damage with an unconditional poison, so that would deal 30 to Cleffa in theory, passing between turns. So if you're not familiar with Dark Muck, at 60 HP, it does definitely want the Rocket Hideout Stadium on the field. But as long as Dark Muck is in play as your active, your opponent pays 2 extra colorless more to retreat his or her active Pokemon. So pretty good ability in Sticky Goo. We just haven't seen it see a lot of play. And then a Cleffa comes down. I think that was off the Elm. And Shockwave is attempted. It got through the baby rule. And then it also got through the actual Shockwave flip, so 10 damage to Cleffa, as we were talking about before. Would have loved to see that potentially be a donk. Instead, 2 Machops come down off of the previous Eek from Machamp. A DCE comes down onto one of the Machop, and a Strength Charm, so no more donking to be seen here for the foreseeable future, at least. And that Machop is the Rockets Machop, so lots of Rocket cards seen play right now. With the DCE, it can punch for 20, and with that Strength Charm, punch for 30. But Yanma resists fighting, so we'll keep an eye on that. Notable type matchup shenanigans. Now, big hand for Dark Muck here. You can see a Grass Energy coming down. Now the Rocket's Hideout comes down. Wouldn't have been able to play that previously because of Elm. And I think now we're going to see Dark Muck come in. I think I saw another Dark Muck in hand. Looks like instead we're going to see yet another Imposter Oak's Revenge. Not sure what the trainer line count is in this deck, but that is a lot of disruption. 1 Dark Muck goes to the bin to activate it. If you're familiar with Desert Shaman as well from this format, from the e-reader sets, Desert Shaman will have both of you shuffle your hands into your deck and draw 4. Imposter Oak, being lopsided, just asks you to discard 1 card from your hand to do it exclusively to your opponent. Sneak Attack comes down, Hand Peep, look for a trainer, but it looked like an Energy, a Cleffa, and 2 different Machamp lines. So knowing that that Cleffa's in hand, even knocking this one out, your opponent's going to be able to continue to eke and set up gradually. So Dark Muck definitely playing aggro here. Sludge Punch does not get through the baby rule, so Cleffa lives. Fighting Energy goes down onto Machop, activating Kick for 30. Another Strength Charm goes down onto another Machop. And those Strength Charms are for Machamp later down the line when it could use Drag Off. Drag Off is similar to Snatch from Scizor if you're familiar with the format, but Drag Off lets you pick any benched Pokemon of your opponent and pulls it in, then deals 20 damage. So the way the baby rule works, if your opponent has a benched Cleffa, you can Drag Off with a Strength Charm to deal 30 to it without having to flip for the baby rule if your opponent did not have a baby in their own active slot. So that's why all the Strength Charms. Sludge Punch again is going to Brick, and Cleffa is now on bench with the Grass Energy for Dark Muck, but definitely slowing down. Another Fighting Energy comes down into Machop, so that is ready to go if it evolves into a Machamp. Looks like we're currently lacking Machoke. You see an Iggly buff in hand, and you also see a Fan Club. Might as well Fan Club, get your deck thinned out, plan ahead a little bit here. And we will see Fan Club. While that is resolving, we'll take a look at board state. I do think between the 2 Machamps available, Skyridge is the one we're most likely to see, although Expedition and Terraforming is very powerful. If there was more of a bench, Shockwave really could have set up a powerful Iron Fist attack from Expedition Machamp, but we'll get there when we get there. Instead, we see a Sentret come out of that Fan Club along with yet another Machop. Sentret obviously going to go into Aquapolis Furret, one of the best supporters in the format, in my opinion. Now that there is a second Cleffa down, knocking it out with Sludge Punch is not nearly as scary. You can continue to eke, you can continue to try to find Machoke. Meanwhile, not a lot of eking going on for Dark Muck here. 2 cards in hand, wouldn't mind a refill, but Dark Muck should be able to hold its own. And that looked like another Tails trying to Sludge Punch Cleffa, so Yanma now up to 2 energy. It does have a usable second attack worth noting. That second attack is Swift, and a lot of Pokemon have Swift, or at least a handful of them do, but Swift is very, very interesting. Yanma's Swift does 30 damage for 3 grass, but that attack is not affected by weakness, resistance, powers, or any other effects on defending Pokemon, so not a bad silver bullet to have in certain matchups. Very good against Mr. Mime, very good against Metal Energy, Don't sleep on Swift. So a trader comes down. That grabbed him a choke, it looks like. DCE attaches to the other Machamp, so very set up on energy right now. And a pass, so yeah, it makes sense to trader out the Machoke instead of the Furret. You have a Machamp in hand. Sludge Punch fails again, so that's the power of Cleffa. Can really makes things lopsided here. Machamp does come down, and it is the Iron Fist Machamp from Expedition. So if you're not familiar with Iron Fist, for 2 colorless and 2 fighting, you can count the number of Pokemon you have in play with damage counters on them and then flip a coin. If heads, the attack will deal 50 plus 10 more for each of your damaged Pokemon. So either way, you're dealing 50. And worth noting, Muck does not resist fighting, but Yanma does.
Was this DCE this turn or last turn?
Last one, that's it. I mean, we're not really.
Yeah.
I thought that DCE was this turn, but no one can remember because short-term goldfish memory. And I believe now we are seeing a terraforming. So terraforming on that Machamp once per turn. Before you attack, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck and rearrange them as you like. So pretty powerful, lets you dig deep. Obviously you don't want to terraform and then eek, but I guess you always could if you're in an eek war, Cleffa on Cleffa action. So terraforming will definitely slow this game down a little bit. So while that's going on, thinking of lines for what Dark Muck can do here, I'm surprised that maybe it wasn't in hand, but I would have put down the Skyridge Machamp just because it's so immune to poison. It has an ability called Immunity that prevents effects of all other attacks. So that would just turn Sludge Punch into a 20 damage attack.
Did you punch me?
And I also think it would completely shut off Yanma. Okay, it would not shut off Swift, but it would shut off Shockwave. Rocket Sneak Attack, targeting trainers in hand again. You see a Mime. So I don't think we'll see that Mime because of the Yanma, but Expedition Machamp was exclusively picked over Skyridge. Sludge Punch finally hits that Cleffa, which probably is something both players are happy to see at this point.
The hog has been slapped.
And now with terraforming, you can bet terraforming is going to try to dig out that the Furret from wherever it is. A Goldberry on that Sentret. I had missed that attach. Machoke number 2 comes down. So we'll get to Skyridge Machamp soon enough. DCE to yet another Machamp. I've said that 3 times now this game. Don't even need Furret if you just draw your DCE. And another Cleffa comes down onto the bench, missed that as well. So 1 Cleffa's knocked out. Between the 2 benches, there are 3 Cleffas in view. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not a bench Cleffa, that's a binned Cleffa. Which is why I usually keep my bin above my deck. But that's a me problem right now. Looks like we're terraforming. Alright, and Iron Fist is going to swing for 60 thanks to the Strength Charm. Dark Muck being boosted by 20 HP from Rocket's Hideout is not knocked out yet, but will be knocked out shortly. But you can get a poison off, and on a big body like Machamp with a heavy retreat cost, yes, you might be able to get a Warp Energy, you might find Furret, but you might not. So we'll see if that matters at all. Again, why I was thinking about Immunity Machamp, but I can totally respect wanting to terraform consistently instead. And it will be the poison. Let's see what's in hand here. Instead of fighting attach comes down onto Machoke. We will see another Machamp come down as well. So both Machamps are active now. And a quick rules check. Not sure what's up in the air right now.
you trying to figure out poison?
Yeah, so I know that some things poison shuts off and others don't. Because this says special condition. I know that.
Alright, so they're checking if terraforming is shut off by poison. My understanding of the condition errata on the WotC-20 website is that poison will not shut off abilities. While they are figuring this out, please drop a like, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the decks and how you would use Dark Muck. I've thought about brewing with it before. It seems like a fun idea.
Burned, confused, or paralyzed. So poison doesn't shut down. Burn would. But it makes older stuff susceptible to burn and newer stuff immune to poison. Poison is the special condition. I will take it.
Alright, and now we are terraforming. We'll see what that draw is another time, or what was terraformed for the draw. Goldberry comes down onto Machamp. That'll pop in between turns with Poison. Machamp will also take a knockout with Iron Fist on that Dark Muck. So we are now at prize parity, 5-5. And now a Cleffa comes in. Five-card hand, another Cleffa down onto bench for Dark Muck. You can see a Dark Fortress in hand. And instead we will Elm away the whole hand. Remember, no more trainers after Elm.
You're good.
And a clean 7 off the top. Let's see what we got here. Looking for basics. You find one Pineco from Neo Destiny. And a nightly garbage run, the other twin, sometimes talked about, besides town volunteers. Except it's not a supporter, and instead of 5 targets, you get 3. Puts basic energy or Pokemon lines back into your deck. There is an argument to be explored somewhere about running Nightly Garbage Run over Town V, or just how many Town V equate to a Nightly Garbage Run, but we're not going to get into that here. Strength Charm goes onto the active Machamp. Alright, and looks like a Gust, I think that was a Gust, pushed the Cleffa to the bench. Nope, that's confusing. Does that thing not have a fighting resistance? Hello? Is there a Mime on bench? No, there isn't.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, well that shouldn't have happened as far as I can tell. So it was a Gust to hit the Yanma, but... Alright, Rocket Sneak Attack will at least force a Shuffle, so Terraform doesn't matter. That Yanma should be alive and well. But who's counting? Dark Fortress comes down with a Grass Attach, so we should definitely talk about Fortress, because it's a pretty unique card. 60 HP, so again, benefiting from the Stadium. Worth noting, a Grimer and Murkrow have also joined the bench now. Fortress has 2 attacks. It has Armor Up, which until the end of your next turn, if it would be knocked out by damage from any attack. Flip a coin. If heads, it's not knocked out and its remaining HP is 10 instead. So kind of like Focus Band, and then it has Explosion. 60 damage for 2 grass is pretty good, but Dark Fortress deals 60 to itself. So, high risk, high reward. And we will see an Eek into that Machamp. Prizes are 4 to 5 in favor of Machamp. And that Machamp is just going to stay poisoned. It could retreat at any time, or you could find a Warp Energy, or you could find a Furret, so keep that in mind. Energy attach for a turn to another Machop. And with that hand of Machop, Igglybuff, and Mr. Mime, not much else to do here except try to hit a Cleffa. Iron Fist succeeds. Cleffa goes to the bin with a Grass Energy. We prize up. Pass back to Dark Muck's side, and Cleffa comes active. Grass attached to Forretress. And worth noting, Dark Forretress getting the HP boost from the stadium would be able to survive its own explosion, but so would that Machamp with a whole 10 HP. Both Machamps have a big 120 HP stat. And we come on in. That Forretress does in fact armor up. Warp Energy comes in to remove the poison token. Other Machamp will come in instead, which has immunity. But it also has another very good attack that I think is pretty fun called Hurricane Punch. You might be familiar with this attack from Giovanni's Machamp, although this Machamp has a better energy cost requirement for it because it can leverage DCE. Giovanni's Machamp cannot do that. But it's flip 4 coins and deal 30 for each head, so that's a whole wide range of damage you can do from 0 to 120. Fun card. Alright, instead it will be Drag Off. It'll pull in the Cleffa and knock it out, since Drag Off will get boosted from 20 to 30 with that Strength Charm. No need to flip for the baby roll. So now, at least on Dark Fortress's side, you have a Grass Energy come down onto Grimer. You have some sort of lock option with Murkrow. Another Dark Fortress comes down onto the bench, and along with a Boss's Way, I assume to grab a Muck. Yep, and evolve into Muck. And remember, Armor Up is still active on that Dark Fortress, so I assume we'll see an Explosion, which would two-shot a Machamp, but you're also likely to knock yourself out. So I'm going to have to get a little lucky. You can see a Darkness Energy in hand, which can be used by Dark Muck and Dark Fortress. And Murkrow, of course, but...
Not necessarily all of it, but if there's whatever we cover, whoever wants to. If it helps you decide, you would need to reapply. Yeah, that's if I wanted to do that. Yeah, because Butler came out.
Oh, Armor Up is not in effect right now. Yeah, because Cleffa got dragged off by the Machamp, so that removed Armor Up. My bad. They figured that out, but yet that Yanma is still in the bin. Nah, I'm just kidding. Man, armoring up here. I mean, you don't have to armor up, but you will get cracked back. You'll survive your own explosion.
But I don't think you should be afraid of it. Do you know what I mean?
And then you just get dragged. Oh, actually, does drag off? Hold on a second here. So drag off has to bring in something from the bench, so you wouldn't be able to get dragged off as a retaliation to explosion. Alright, looks like they went for the explosion. Wait a minute. I don't think... Why is Forretress at 50 instead of 60? Did I miss something there?
I didn't find her just particularly above mine. Get Schrader and shop.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Forretress should have dealt 60 to itself, but we'll ignore that.
No, that's silly. I don't want to. I mean, I do, but.
It's almost as if Armor Up procced, but that requires a coin flip, and we know it didn't. Anyway, Furret finally joins the party here. I don't think it really matters right now. But what I was going to say before was Machamp would have to drag off something to the bench, so it can't just drag off this Fortress for a knockout. Which, right now, the math on the table wouldn't be a knockout, but it should have dealt 60 to itself, and then the 20 for the Stadium. So what Machamp has to do here, if it doesn't warp, is use Hurricane Punch and not hit all tails. So there is a line here for Fortress to stay alive. More attaches to Machamp. We'll take a second to terraform. Dragon instead will target the benched Dark Fortress. Now in theory this should have set up a knockout next turn for the other Dark Fortress. But it's 10 shy. Grass attached to Dark Muck, so that's ready to poison things again. The other Fortress stuck in active, not great. You see a Stadium in hand and a Dark Energy in hand. Looks like that attach will instead go to Fortress for the Grass Energy, and Armor Up will be used. Elm for a small hand to go away. Elm will also power Furret here. So remember, for Armor Up, if you would take damage, the owner of Dark Fortress would flip a coin. If heads, Fortress is not knocked out, so that's what we'll keep an eye on. Right, Terraform has resolved. Big hand. Probably would have, if you're going to fur it, would have furred before that Terraform.
He has 60 HP remaining and out 8.
I'd say go for the Hurricane Punch.
Let me drag in Dark Muck.
Instead, we will drag off Dark Muck.
His ability is to prevent secondary effects of attacks. So he'll still take the 20, but he can't get poison.
And now it's Dark Muck versus Immunity Machamp. Not great if you're Dark Muck. Lots of thinking going on for Dark Muck's side here. Grass Energy to active, can still chip away with 20. So now Machamp is up to 80, so 2 more Sludge Punches. Computer Search comes down. 1 Fighting Energy and 1 Fan Club go to the bin. We'll see what gets pulled out here. And it's a Machoke. Now we see another Terraform. Sitting pretty comfortably if you're Machamp here. You don't have to press too hard to look for gusts, or not really sure how many gusts this deck even runs, but... Alright, energy removal hits a Grass Energy on the benched Fortress. And we will see Hurricane Punch, so need 2 heads here on the Muck. That is at least 2. 3 heads, so that is a knocked out Dark Muck. That was 90 damage to the face. And we have 1 prize left for Machamp. Dark Fortress is now active. And it looks like that is going to be it. So thank you for watching. If it were up to you, what would you name this Dark Fortress Dark Muck deck? In the comments, let us know. I would call it Mukbang just because there's a Dark Muck and Fortress actually uses Explosion. Usually we see the Rapid Spin Fortress, so always fun to see different variants. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.